My name is Rosie and I go to Willesden Primary School.
Rosie attends Willingdon Primary School in Eastbourne, a mainstream school with a facility supporting hearing-impaired children attached to it. Willingdon works hard to include Rosie in every aspect of school life.
I'm Jan Impairment, teacher of the deaf, and I'm head of the hearing support facility. At this hearing support facility we use total communication, which generally encompasses all forms of communication. So depending on the child and depending on the context, we might use sign supporting English or signed English or BSL or oral communication, or a combination of all of those depending on the child and what's needed at that moment.
Not every school benefits from a team of signing TAs and a teacher for the deaf. But many of the strategies used at Willingdon can be employed at mainstream schools without additional facilities to enable hearing-impaired children to access the curriculum fully. This programme focuses on those strategies.
Rosie is severely deaf in the right ear and she's got a severe to profound loss in the left ear, which means that with a good use of hearing aids and a radio aid in school, she can access speech in good conditions.
That's right, because you're going to tell me how much we need to put in.
I was a bit nervous when I came to Willesden Primary School because I'd never been in a mainstream school before. But then I thought it was really good fun because I got friends now. And this is my best friend Beck.
I'm not deaf, but I like signing. It's good fun.
Rosie spends about 10% of her time in the facility. For other children, that could be maybe as much as 50, 60, 70%. But Rosie accesses the mainstream curriculum quite well with differentiation, so we just reinforce it.
I think maybe...
Every morning, Rosie and the other hearing-impaired children have their hearing aids checked in the facility.
This one sounds just a little bit like underwater.
Dad!
That's Dad, that's right.
Dad.
If they only use their hearing aids, the teacher would have to be very close to Rosie and there'd have to be no background noise, and clearly that's not possible in a primary school. So we use a radio aid. The teacher wears a transmitter and Rosie wears the receiver, which is attached to her hearing aid. That means that the teacher's talking into a microphone positioned about here, and then on a radio wavelength the sound is transmitted to Rosie's receiver, so she can then be several feet away and she's hearing the teacher's voice as if she were only a metre away.
I'm Miss Binks.
I'm Mrs. Taylor. I'm Miss Green. We're teaching assistants in a mainstream school.
Okay, if we just have a look at next week.
Every Friday, Jan and her team of TAs look over the teachers' plans for the following week to see what work needs differentiation.
And then it's assembly, which is one of the biggest things we do on a Friday is actually making sure that we're consistent with the signs. There's lots of signs in the lots of words in the national curriculum which don't have a sign language equivalent, and we would have to decide amongst ourselves what we're going to use for that. He's going to start off just describing the four categories, and he's got four labels that he's going to then hold up. So that's carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals and vitamins. So so we need to be sure about the signs for that. The carbohydrates, I don't know, there isn't a sign for carbohydrates.
We'll just sign carbohydrates.
Yeah, because you can point to the word.
We won't have to finger spell it, that's a big word to...
And then just after that, just carbohydrates.
That's fine.
My name is Mr. Sykins. Carbohydrates, well done. Well, so look.
Wayne Sykins is Rosie's class teacher. An NQT, Wayne is still learning how to accommodate a deaf child in his classroom.
Fats. Rosie, would you like to come and get one? I've had a lot of support from the school for supporting Rosie here. I was offered the opportunity to go on a deaf awareness course when I started, and it was very good. It really did help me understand how hearing impaired children learn. Can we see that? Chocolate. Yes. Well done, Rosie. Good girl.
For mainstream class teachers, it does involve more work having a hearing impaired child in the class. They do need to be very meticulous in their planning and the timetable. and it's quite hard for them when they want to be flexible if a lesson is going well, when we need actually for them to stick to quite a tight structure.
Used in all type of instructional text. I work very closely with the TAs. We're meeting every morning and we discuss the lessons that are going to come up and the key words that may be used. Well, first thing we're going to talk about time connectives. So I've got all these words made up and they're going to ask for different. I'm going to ask them for different time connectives, if they can remember them and stick them on the board.
We looked at the plans last week and actually talked about the signs, because a lot are similar, so we've actually printed out the signs with the words underneath.
Brilliant.
That Rosie and Liam are going to have a set each in front of them on the table.
Well, when we plan our lessons, it's really important that we think and try and make everything as visual as we can, so that all of the children understand exactly what is happening the whole time. And all the work connectives that I use, I'm going to put in a line on the board. Okay, well today we're doing an instructional text of how to make a healthy snack. But so that Liam and Rosie can visualise what we're doing, I'm going to make it first for them using the apricots, banana chips, etc. in front of them so they can see all the steps.
Brilliant. There isn't actually a sign that we can use apart from peach, small peach, so we've actually printed a picture of an apricot, and we can say it's similar to a peach but small.
Well, my greatest link for finding out if Rosie's understood me or not is through the TA, like who she works with, and during the lesson, once the lesson has started, I'll always go over to the TA to make sure that I'll give them a couple of minutes to make sure Rosie's got it and the other deaf children understand what is being said.
Problems that Rosie encounters on a daily basis involved in the classroom are the teacher often moves around the classroom, which can make lip reading very difficult for her. It's important for us to try and educate the teachers to try and get them to remain in the same place.
The thing that I need to consider probably the most with Rosie in the class is where she's sitting and where I am in relation to her. She obviously needs to be able to see me and to be able to read my lips, as well as be able to see her signer. Yeah, go. Also, I need to think about when I'm right on the board not to speak as well, otherwise she wouldn't know what I'm saying.
Order.
Well, I'm ordering you, aren't I? So it's ordering language, let's say.
You know, hope Mr. Dokin, we learned them more sign language.
Sometimes Mr. Sykens gets to turn on the transmitter so she can't hear. So she keep on saying, it's not on.
I think the pace of the lessons in Year 6 is very fast, and it takes an enormous amount of concentration for her to follow the teacher. She lip reads very well, and most of the time she's following the teacher, but she will swap over to look at the signer if she's got any doubts at all about what was said.
But, can anybody see?
And I think the hardest thing for Rosie is if she wants to ask questions back, there's often not time, because by the time we've processed that information so she can access it, the teacher's often moved on.
All children in class have moments when they are not focusing on what the teacher says, and they might be looking out of the window, but they still might be half paying attention because they're half listening to what the teacher's saying. But for Rosie, when she needs those moments, respite, she's actually completely cut off from what's going on, and that can mean that she misses important parts of the lesson. And so it's up to the TA really, who's supporting her at various points in the lesson to ensure that she's on task.
Just remember it, you can include it.
The skill we want Rosie to develop is to listen and watch the person talking, so she's using her listening skills and her lip reading skills, but also to use the signer to confirm what she's heard or to reinforce for clarification really. So the skill we want is for her to be able to switch from the person talking to the person signing in order to gain all the information.
Yeah, the other pupils act brilliantly towards Rosie. She's very much part of the class. They help her and support her brilliantly.
We need some carbohydrates.
I think Mr. Sagan actually quite likes having the TAs around in the classroom because he very much wants to take an active part in communicating, obviously, Rosie directly. And many times he's asked us what a specific sign is, so he can have a conversation quite fluidly with Rosie.
Rosie, is there anything... My relationship with Rosie is I speak to her on a one-to-one, and I know the signers are there if I can't communicate with them, but I'll always try and speak to her on a one-to-one first of all.
Really important for Rosie to take part in all aspects of school life, not just the mainstream curriculum, but the extracurricular activities. she's just taking part in some football trials. And we would decide whether she needs support for that or not. For something like football, we would support at the beginning, and then she's able to join in with the others without support. Signing is encouraged throughout the school. All assemblies, concerts, Christmas productions are completely signed.
And he shot and scored. Now Willingdon were 2-0 up.
Within mainstream schools, obviously many teachers are not going to sign, and that's really why we're there, to provide that sign support. So it's not essential that they sign. What we would expect from teachers is to learn the basics of good morning and hello and greetings, so they can have simple conversations with the student, because it just makes such a difference to their life.
Where else did he put the snake?
So how does Rosie cope in group discussions?
Rosie?
I don't know why
Class discussions are difficult for Rosie. I try as hard as I can to, when someone else says something, it's important that I repeat the answer that the child is given, so that Rosie understands what other people are saying. We do use a transmitter, which helps Rosie to hear. And if another child is speaking at length, we come up to the front, and they're used to putting the transmitter on themselves. And everyone's very good at doing that, so that allows her to hear.
Okay, from the top.
Adam flushed the unusual loo and opened the bathroom door.
When the children are working in groups, we do have a conference mic that we can put in the middle of the table and attach a transmitter to it, so that all the children can be heard equally.
So does sharing a classroom work for Rosie and her hearing peers?
Benefits for other children are often the visual resources that we provide and differentiated work that we're providing for Rosie and the other deaf children are actually very beneficial for several other students within the class.
What do you think?
And sometimes our signs can clarify points that perhaps they would have missed.
What do you think, Elliot?
Rosie is very much accepted within a hearing peer group, and this will have benefits when she leaves school within society. She will obviously, hopefully, move seamlessly into the hearing world outside and into employment.
What advice would the team at Willingdon give to other mainstream teachers?
Make sure that they never start a lesson on a totally new topic without some sort of visual indication of what that lesson is all about.
Yes, and I would say go on a deaf awareness course before you actually start teaching. Then you have a wider knowledge of what is needed.
Superb.
One of the more important aspects is actually having the confidence to communicate with a hearing impaired child. And it's being aware of how much a child can gain just through body language and tone of voice and your posture. They can certainly know if they've done something well, or conversely, if they're doing something they shouldn't do. They can fully understand that without the adult necessarily being able to sign.
And my advice to any other teachers that are about to have hearing impaired children in their class is not to be afraid of communicating with them, because even if you don't know sign language, there are many other ways that you can communicate.
Fantastic, because you can say things about other people without them knowing, and it's kind of like a secret language you can do and nobody else really understands, so it's exciting.
I'm working with Beth because she helped me lots of times. When I did duck and work, Beth always helped me and showed me how to work.
It's fantastic having a friend like Rosie.